In the last video, we were discussing some of the basic introductory concepts as it pertains to optimal SPSS utilization. In this video, we're going to pick up right where we left off with SPSS conditional syntax. Syntax, as it pertains to the SPSS platform, is executable code which allows for the quick reproduction of work output while also allowing the user to bypass the SPSS menu interface. As always, all code related to this video's exercises can be found in the video description below, along with the associated data file, which is structured within CSV format. So let's begin. Let's say that we have some data, and we're interested in performing analysis, but only analysis where certain conditions of our variables meet certain criteria. So here are our variable observations here, and in each instance, each one of these variables is categorical. And if you want to go in between the observation values and those labels, you can just click this button right here. So here is our syntax, which is again in the video description below. And what we want to do is we want to filter for instances where gender is equal to 0. Gender equaling 0 is all the females in our data. So let's go ahead and run this code as it relates to this filter. And as you can see, only the females remain. And now let's perform some simple frequency analysis. Let's get the favorite genre frequency of only the females. So let's go ahead and run this code as well. And here is our output in the output window. Now, as you can see, and as was mentioned in our prior video, when you run execution, whether it be through the SPS menu or whether it be through SPSS syntax, you end up with the associated syntax in your output. Now you can delete this by just clicking it and hitting delete, or you can leave it if you prefer to utilize that to keep track of which output is which, but that's going to come out by default. This is our title. You can put these in if you like, even if they're a bit tiny to help you keep track of which is which. And here is our frequency analysis. So let's go ahead and get this filter disabled. So we're going to run this code, filter off. And as you can see, our initial data has been returned to its prior state. So now let's run another conditional filter. In this case, we're going to run end. So we're now only interested in instances in which gender equals 0. So we're still working with the females here, in which gender equals 0 and EyeColor equals 2. So gender must equal 0 and EyeColor must equal 2. So let's go ahead and run this code. And as you can see, all that remains is gender equaling 0, EyeColor equals 2. And now let's perform a little frequency analysis. We just want the frequency of favorite genre where these conditionals are true. So let's go ahead and run that. And again, we have our output. So let's get this filter taken off. And now we're going to do a not equal filter, not equal, all right? So here we want only instances in which gender is not equal to 0. Gender not equal to 0. So that means only instances of 1, because 1 is when gender does not equal 0. So let's go ahead and run this here. So only the ones remain. And now we want to perform some analysis as it relates to favorite genre. Can cycle through those. If we want to run our analysis, we just run this section here. And here is our frequency output in the output window. Again, we want to take this filter off so our initial data set is restored. And finally, it looks like we want to do an or conditional. So where favorite genre is 1 or favorite genre is 2. So favorite genre is 1 or favorite genre is 2. So 1 or 2, which means that all other instances, 0, 3, and 4, will be excluded. So let's go ahead and run this syntax here. And all that remains is 1 or 2. So if we now want to run our frequency analysis, we can do so. And here is our associated output in the output window. Now, I just wanted to mention one or two things real quick, which might throw you off when you're running conditionals or doing syntax of your own. And that is, let me just take this filter off real quick. Here we have in our data set every categorical variable, the variable name and the variable label match. What do I mean by this? Well, the variable name for person is person and the label is person. But if there's an instance in which the variable name is something different than the label, right? So in this instance, Q1 is the name, label is person. If we wanted to sort or perform a conditional, we would have to change whatever it was to Q1. So if gender was Q2, so let's say gender is Q2, we have to run our syntax not as it is here, but as it relates to the variable name, not the variable label. If we were to run this, we'd have an error thrown. So if we wanted the same outcome for this particular bit of code, which we had run previously, we have to change this variable to Q2 because it's Q2, but the label is gender. And one final thing I do want to also mention, if you find SPSS's habit of putting syntax as it relates to the syntax which you're executing or the analysis which you're executing through the utilization of the SPSS menus to be bothersome, you can disable this particular feature. What you would need to do to suppress syntax code associated with process execution is you have to go to Edit, and then from there, Options, and then in the Viewer tab, you have to make sure that this particular checkbox is deselected. If you click Apply and then click OK, any additional analysis which you perform will not have the syntax header included within it moving forward. So all of this will no longer be within your output. Now, this doesn't just last for the session, this lasts for every subsequent session as well. So make sure if you want it turned back on, you enable it at the beginning of your subsequent session or you enable it during your current session because it will remain turned off until it's re-enabled. So that's where we're going to end today. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing. If you have any questions, maybe leave a comment so that we can all help one another out. We're trying to get the message out to as many users as possible. So best of luck in your research and thanks for stopping by. And until next time, take care.